I'm sure today I will be introducing the film The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. It is a British comedy drama film released in 2011 and directed by John Murden. It follows a group of British retirees who move to Jaipur, India, hoping for a cheaper and more comfortable retirement. However, they soon realize that adapting to a new culture is more difficult than expected. This film is highly relevant to intercultural communication, which refer to the exchange of meaning between people from different cultural backgrounds. Through daily interaction between British retirees and Indian locals, the film highlights difference in values, communication style, and social behavior. The main argument of this review is that the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel shows how the intercultural communication is affected by stereotype, language barriers, ethnocentrism, identity, cultural adaptation, and nonverbal communication. The film demonstrates that judging others based on one's own culture leads to misunderstanding, while openness and adaptation can improve the communication and relationship.
Hello everyone, today I want to introduce the movie The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. The story is about a group of British retirees. They go to Jaipur, India, to find a cheap and happy retirement. They expect a nice and comfortable hotel, but the hotel is unfinished and messy. At first, they feel confused and face many problems. The culture, lifestyle, and rules are very different from what they know. But slowly, they can learn to adapt. They make friends, find love, and discover new meanings in life. The movie is funny and warm. It shows how meeting a new culture can change people and help them grow. Thank you.
I'm going to talk about the characters, cultural responses, and the film's key themes. First, cultural responses. Muriel starts with prejudice and cultural superiority, then grows open and accepting. Emily adapts positively, gains independence and confidence through cross-cultural interaction. Madge Norman Graham used Indian to explore love, identity, and self-acceptance. Jane struggled to integrate into local life, while Douglas opens up to Indian freely. Next, key themes. This film is set mainly in a large international hotel and follows people from different countries and cultural backgrounds. Through everyday service, conflicts, and interactions, it shows how people understand, misunderstand, and gradually adapt to each other across cultures. This film not only presents the daily operation of an international hotel, but also highlights how cultural differences influence relationships and service quality, emphasizing the importance of response and mutual understanding in a globalized world.
Okay, now I will talk about one of our arguments, which is stereotypes. Stereotypes are simple ideas about a group based on limited information. When people do not know another culture well, they use stereotypes to understand others. If stereotypes include negative judgments, they become prejudice. In intercultural communication, stereotypes are related to anxiety and uncertainty. Anxiety and uncertainty management theory explains that unfamiliar cultures make people feel nervous, so they rely on stereotypes. However, relying too much on stereotypes can cause misunderstanding. This is showing the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. At the first, Muriel judges Indian culture by British standards, which creates tension. Through continued contact, she reflects on her prejudice and learns to respect Indian culture. The film shows that real interaction improves intercultural communication.
Next, I'll focus on how language barriers impact intercultural relationships in the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. On the surface, British retirees and Indians communicating in English, but accents, expressions, and cultural context create a understandable yet incomprehensible gap. For example, Sony's accented English confused Jin's initially, hindering trust. Goodiko's theory tells us poor language understanding boosts communication anxiety. Muriel's complaints about unclear local English and rejection of Indian culture reflect defensive attitudes and stereotypes from language barriers. Tintomi's theory also applies unclear expressions threatens face. Sony's inaccurate premises made him seem irresponsible, damaging his credibility. Fortunately, Jin's adaptation to local language rhythms turned tension into trust. In short, the film shows language barriers harm emotions and trust. Only through language adaptation and cultural sensitivity can we improve intercultural communication quality.
Okay, I'm going to talk about culture adaptation in the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. In the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, we see culture adaptation. The British retiers move to India and face a new culture. At first, they feel shocked and uncomfortable. The hotel and the day life are very different from what they accept. It's culture shock. Some characters feel angry and disappointed. The judge India use British way of life. Evelyn adapt better than others. She is open and willing to learn. She works, make friends with local people and join the community. She keeps her own culture but also accepts Indian culture. The movie also shows that adaptation is not one way. Both sides need to change and understand each other. Sony also changed how he talks and works with the British guest. Overall, the film teaches us that being open helps people adapt and grow in a new culture.
Now we'll talk about the ethnocentricism. Ethnocentricism refers to judging others' culture using one's own cultural standard and viewing one's culture as superior. In the film, this happened when the British retirees moved to India and are suddenly placed in an unfamiliar cultural environment. So Muriel clearly shows ethnocentricism attitude. She distrusts the Indian institution and criticizes the hotel condition, medical system, and the local service, and interpreting cultural differences as inefficiency rather than the cultural variation. She also compares India negatively with England and feels irritated by the noise, crowds, and what she sees as poor organization. Both characters rely on British standards to decide what is right or acceptable. This behavior can be explained using anxiety and uncertainty management theory. According to the theory, when people feel anxious, insecure, or out of control in a new culture, they tend to rely on stereotype and ethnocentric judgment as a way to protect their identity. So over the time, Muriel become more open-minded. She started working at the hotel, interact daily with the local staff, and gains directly experience with Indian society. This interaction reduced her anxiety and uncertainty, allow her to see the culture beyond stereotype. The film shows ethnocentricism is not permanent and can be reduced through openness and continued interaction.
I'm going to talk about the impact of nonverbal communication differences in the film. Nonverbal communication means communication without words. It includes facial expressions, body language, eye contact, personal space, and even how people understand time. These signals often show feelings and attitudes more clearly than spoken language. However, different cultures use nonverbal communication in different ways, which can easily cause misunderstanding. In the field, I found two classical cases. Monsieur can stop and see them. Because of these differences, conflict and distrust appear at the beginning. Stereotypes also become stronger. However, the film shows that adaptation is possible. Emily learns to listen carefully, stay calm, which help her build trust. In conclusion, nonverbal communication differences strongly affect cross-cultural communication. With cultural awareness and empathy, the misunderstanding can turn into understanding.
Okay, next part I will talk about identity registration in cross-cultural context. Using the film The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel as an example, identity is not fixed, it changes when people enter new social and cultural environment. In the film, a group of retired British elderly move to India. At first, they see themselves as a Western middle-class retirees who should enjoy a relaxed life. However, the cultural differences in India change their self-image and make them question who they really are. According to anxiety and uncertainty management theory, unfamiliar language, customs, and economic pressure create strong anxiety. Abby feels confused at the beginning, but she gradually adapts by socializing with locals, learning new communication styles, and finding a job. Through these experiences, she rebuilds her identity as someone who can still contribute to society. Dialogues also regains his value by helping with hotel management, defining himself as a decision maker. The film also reflects a negotiation theory. Mira protects her British identity and rejects Indian culture to maintain dignity, while majority accepts the local culture and becomes part of community. This contrast shows that identity change is not easy but full of struggle. Although the film shows that identity is a dynamic process shaped through cultural adaptation, emotional management, and social interaction.
This movie's value in intercultural communication is it tells British retirees' life in India, depicting dilemmas from cultural shock, language barriers, and value differences, as well as adaptation and relationship reconstruction. Aligning with Goodicott and the Tim Tommy series, it emphasizes understanding, patience, and cultural sensitivity, challenging stereotypes with gentle narratives. It offers great educational and practical inspiration for intercultural interaction.
In terms of intercultural communication, the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel is meaningful, but it also has limitations. The film mainly focuses on Western characters, while Indian culture is shown mostly as the background, and local characters lack agency. It also presents Indian as a chaotic but warm, which may simplify reality and reinforce stereotypes. However, this reminds audiences to watch the film with a more critical and reflective view.
Okay, next part for the conclusion. The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel shows the main challenges of cross-cultural communication through the interaction between British retirees and Indian locals. At the beginning, stereotypes, language barriers, and ethnocentrism lead to misunderstandings and conflicts as some characters judge others based on their own cultural values. However, the film also highlights that these problems can be overcome through continuous communications. The characters gradually become more open-minded, adjust their attitude, and learn to respect cultural differences. In the end, the film suggests that cultural differences are not obstacles, but opportunities for mutual understanding, self-reflection, and personal growth. Okay, the above is all our group's analysis of this film. Thank you for listening.